Welcome back to Trading 360. Time for our 360 round. For that, I want to bring in our panel. We're going to dive into Domino's Pizza earnings. We've got joining us now Melissa Armo, owner of the stock Swoosh, and Phil Kafarakis, CEO of IFMA, the Food Away from Home Association. Thank you both for joining us today. Melissa, I want to start out with your reaction to Domino's latest earnings. They beat on profit, missed on revenue. Same-store sales was weak, although there was some strength in international. What's your reaction?
Stock was down this morning. It was gapping down and it's rallying now. Meanwhile, the overall market is falling. So that's pretty good for the stock. Overall, though, I will say the stock is very strong. It's been very strong, even though the last time it made brand new all-time highs was 2021. When we had that sell-off a couple of weeks ago, this really didn't have as big of a sell-off as some other stocks did. So overall, I think the main issue with today is the fact that they didn't want to give an outlook on 2025. And that's very interesting. Again, so many big earnings are coming out this week that will affect the market. And it'll be interesting to see if other companies, too, do not really want to give an outlook because they don't know what's going to happen with tariffs. They don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. They feel very uncertain about what's going to happen with the consumer and if we could go into a recession.
Yeah, look, to be fair, they certainly have some exposure to tariffs, especially when you think about the sourcing of tomatoes. I mean, you can't make a pizza without that unless they start making a different type of pizza. But Phil, let me ask you this. When you think about the weakness that we're starting to see with the consumer, so they saw this decline of same-store sales, and that really had to do with the U.S. because you had stronger numbers from international. It reminds me of some of the slowness that we started to see from Chipotle. How would you describe the state of the consumer from your point of view, Phil?
Yes, like everybody else is discussing, the consumer is seeking value. There is this reluctant consumer, and things are starting to slow down. And we're going to see a lot more of this as we get into May and June, knowing that this is that time frame where if there are tariff impacts that are flowing through the consumer, they'll start flowing through towards the end of the month. Everybody's going to be saying the same thing here in the restaurant business right now, even some of the great winners. Even though the stock might be doing well and the financials were up, it was all because of some, financial income that was driven through the franchisees. So it's their own franchisees buying advertising, their own franchisees buying supply chain products from them. It's franchisee revenue. So it has really nothing to do with the basics of the business. Their big win and big story is international. That'll carry them through the rest of the year. And I agree, too, that more and more companies are going to not be talking about the rest of the year. The uncertainty continues to be very clouded. But in pizza, there's a lot of competition. So not only is it deep pricing competition, but you can get some great pizza now at convenience stores. I don't know if you've been to the Midwest these days. There's an outfit called Casey's that does a great job with pizza. And there's many outlets now that are turning to pizza and the uniqueness of innovation in pizza. They'll continue to have problems. The good news, too, for them, as they reported, is their new deal getting beyond their Uber Eats contract. Now they'll be working off of DoorDash's platform. So they're trying to continue to do the outreach they've been doing to keep the brand strong.
Melissa, let me ask you this. You mentioned that, the recovery that we're seeing, given the pressure that we saw at the start of the session. I think one of the views has been when it comes to Domino's is even if you see weakness in the consumer, you'd be hard-pressed to see households give up, for instance, their Pizza Fridays. A lot of families do that, right? Do you think that still holds up in the face of a weakening consumer, or could you see the pattern that Phil was kind of highlighting where consumers just start going to the grocery store to get their pizza?
Well, things at the grocery store aren't cheap either. You look at prices, things have gone up there as well. And I think it's a time issue for people. Again, the idea of having the DoorDash and the home deliveries, people, even though those things can be expensive with the cost and fees and tipping, people look to that because people are busy. You have, the mother and the father working. I mean, I live in New York. Uber Eats is huge here. DoorDash, everybody gets everything delivered all the time, 24/7. So I think Domino's, even if the market ends up falling, is going to end up being fine. But again, will it get over back near the highs? Will it get over, 520, 525, some of these difficult areas for the stock? I think that's really going to have to do with the overall market more so than anything else. And that's probably why, again, they didn't want to give an outlook because what's happening with tariffs is an unknown. So I think if people love their pizza, they're going to keep eating pizza. They may try to find other alternatives. You can go in the street corner in New York and get a piece of slice for $1, but it's probably not as good as Domino's. So it depends, what kind of pizza you want to eat.
I don't know if we can still get them for $1 here in New York now, Melissa. The inflation has pushed that price up, maybe a minimum $3 now for a slice here. We'll have to split it. We'll go in half, and then we've got our dollar. All right, we'll have to leave our conversation there. Domino's, you've got bullish investors trying to fight back to keep it positive right now off the back of their latest results. Our thanks to both Melissa Armo of Stock Swoosh and Phil Kafarakis of IFMA. Thank you both so much for your insight. Thank you for joining us on Trading 360. Download the free Schwab Network app. It is available in the Apple App Store, and tune in 24/7 on SchwabNetwork.com. I'm Diane King Hall. Stay with us. You've got Fast Market with Tom White and Kevin Hinks up next.